Kirby Smart and the Dogs are getting a generational type of player. That's what Westlake head coach Morris Mitchell told me earlier this spring about Juan Gaston Jr., who is Georgia's latest commitment. He chose the Dogs over Tennessee, South Carolina, and Oregon. I believe it was on Saturday night, so this past weekend. And I've got a big story about him that you can read over on Dog Post. I've talked a lot about this young man on this channel. I've seen him play for 3 years now. He's been a starter since he was a freshman on the offensive line at a Westlake program, a proud Westlake program, since he was a freshman. I'm going to talk a little bit more about him, but I do want to throw in the quotes when I talk to these coaches, these trainers, everyone that, around these prospects, right, that commit to Georgia. You got to get to know them as well as possible. So I had to go down there and talk with this coach, and he gave me a lot to say because I've been high on Juan Gaston Jr. for a long time. I think the other outlets have him ranked criminally low, and I'm going to talk about all that in just a second. But I asked his coach, I said, why is Juan Gaston Jr. behind player X, player B, C, D, whoever, right? And we got into it, and I said, what makes him special other than his size, right? You can't teach 6'7", 350 pounds. But he said, Juan's bending is top tier. He said, I've never seen a kid that big be able to bend as well as he does. I see him in a front squat and overhead squat, and his bottom is getting to his calf muscle. That's special. He's able to bend and move and really run. He's one of the best athletes on our team. And he is a first guy off the bus type. And I've said this in the video about him when he committed, that when he was in town, when he was in Athens, prior to the game on the sidelines, you can see when he's there because he's a head foot taller than everyone else. His dad played college basketball. He plays high school basketball for Westlake. I mean, this is a kid who can really move at 350. He's played at 360 pounds, and he's a center, right? He's a power forward center type who plays in the paint, and he can bully you down low, and he's crafty. He has great feet, and that helps him in pass protection too. His coach went on to say he's the total package. He hasn't given up a sack in 2 years, so as a junior or a sophomore at Westlake. And I'll say this, man, he goes against some talented players. It's hard to find an area in Georgia right now at the high school level as talented as South Fulton, Westlake, Langston Hughes, Douglas County. Those three right there are three of the best teams in the state, and Carrollton is in that region. So every week, Juan Gaston Jr. is going up against a quality, most likely D1 outside linebacker, edge defender, and he's mauling them. And he has been doing it year after year after year. First time I saw him was at Milton. He was a freshman, and he was one of the first guys that stood out to me on the Westlake roster or the Milton roster, and those two programs that just consistently pump out big-time players. And I was like, who's this kid? And I went over to the coach. They said, oh, that's Juan Gaston Jr. He's a freshman tackle. I got a picture of him, and that's been on the website for years now. But he has turned into one of the best offensive linemen in the country. And we went on to talk about more. He said, hasn't given up a sack in 2 years. He likes to pin people down. He likes to down block and pull in the run game. He really does have all the tools. He just needs to continue developing. Then he gave me a great quote. But first, before I forget, collegebronze.com. Listen, the season is almost here. You got 3 weeks. Get this bad boy today. It's the #1 Bulldog statue on the market right now. This is the only place where you can get a discount. Promo code DOGPOST, DAWGPOST. All the information is in the description below in this video. That's where you can order. And remember, don't forget that promo code. It's very important. DOGPOST, DAWGPOST. And the quote he said after this about Juan Gaston Jr. was, where is it? Here, he's a gentle giant who needs to keep turning the knob. And one day he's going to break that knob on the field. And he's right. I mean, it was a recruitment that was tough to cover because he didn't say anything. The kid never said a word to really tip his hand one way or the other. I knew Georgia was in a good spot, and I knew Georgia liked him. And I knew that while he would never say it outwardly, that he really liked Georgia. And I knew that they had a real chance of getting him early on, and he ended up committing. But this is a guy who played the cards very close to his chest. He doesn't give anything away. I mean, I never got a good interview with him. They were always like 2 minutes long. Nothing really came out of it. But when he gets on the field, And I do think that's his personality. He's not anti-media or anything like that. He's just kind of more quiet, reserved, lead by example. And the coach said he comes in and does his job every day. That's how he leads. He's not a rah-rah, all about me type of guy. He's team first. But he goes in and does his job and makes sure that he is a better football player every day when he goes to practice. Let's see if he's got some more. Yeah. And so he's a humble kid with a gentle spirit. He comes in every day and does his job. That's the type of leadership that he provides. And we had a really good conversation at the time. I thought Travis Smith Jr., his teammate who was standing right next to me, I got the interview with him too. I thought he was leaning towards Georgia, but Juan Gaston Jr. is a big deal. Again, I think he is underrated looking at the websites out there. I think he is a top 10 player in the state. I think he's probably the second best offensive line prospect in the state. I think they've got 3 others on board, and they're mostly interior guys too. Cortez Smith is your center, possibly guard. You've got Dontrell Glover, Mason Short, guys who played tackle at the high school level who will both probably slide in, and Juan Gaston Jr. will probably do that too. He'll be a massive guard, but if there's one guy, because they don't have a true tackle committed in this class, in the 25 class, if there's one guy who might continue to get a look at tackle, I think it's Juan Gaston Jr. But, I asked his coach after that, I said, what's a general breakdown? How good can he be? How special is this kid? And he said, I think he's a generational type of player. That's where the quote came in. I think he's a generational type of player. I think he's the #1 offensive lineman in the country. Of course, this is a high school football coach saying that, but the guy knows what he's talking about. I can tell you that. I could go on and on and on. This is a fantastic coach who was going to do big things at Westlake. He said, I've never seen a kid that big, that fast, be able to dunk a basketball the way he does and power clean 300 pounds the way he does with ease. He's a top-tier talent that you don't see come through South Fulton very often. I don't think you see it come through the state of Georgia or the country very often. 6'7", again, 6'7", 350 pounds, moves really well, can play in space, can latch onto linebackers at the second level. He's not just a dominant pass protector that guys can't get around. He moves really well for his size. Will probably continue to have to work on losing that weight when he gets to Athens, but get him into a strength and conditioning program in Athens, and they're going to be able to tune his body and form it however they feel like they should, right? But he's not some lean Andrew Thomas, Monroe Freeling type coming into Athens. He's got a lot of weight on him, and if he can kind of transform his body, he's only going to be better at the next level and continue to develop that mean streak that it seems like he has on the field, but he is kind of a nice, quiet kid off of it. But I do think this is a big-time commitment and have said that for a while. I think Georgia fans should be very excited about him. And he comes from a football family, not a football family, but an athletic family. I'll say that. His dad was an incredible athlete, played basketball at Georgia Tech, probably should have played football the entire way, would have been very good. But again, multi-sport standout who loves to compete, loves to get better. But yeah, his high school coach thinks he is a generational type of player. And like I've said, I know people who are in the middle school ranks and the Pop Warner kind of ranks in Georgia, and they'll give me some heads up on, an Owen Papo in 7th, 8th grade, or Julian Lewis, 6th or 7th grade. Juan Gaston was a guy I heard a lot about in middle school, and he came through, and I didn't see him until that scrimmage, basically going into his freshman year at Milton, when I said, wow, this kid really is that big. And everyone says just how athletic he is at 350 pounds. It's just something you really don't see that often. But that's what he brings to the table: strength, power, versatility, and the ability to dominate in pass protection and in the run game. He can open a lot of running lanes off that left tackle side, but even if he moves inside like I think he will, he's going to be a dominant run blocker from the guard position, because again, he's very big, and his best football is only still way ahead of him. I think he's going to turn out to be a really good player. I think he's going to eventually start at Georgia. Might be a multi-year starter, so this was a big deal And again, his head coach had a lot of big things to say about him, so I wanted to jump on and share those thoughts with you. Again, get your Bulldog today, promo code DOGPOST, DAWGPOST. Hope you learned something about Georgia's latest commitment. The season's right around the corner. We're excited to dive into that. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.